Hey y'all, welcome to the Standing on Business podcast, where ambition meets action. From career moves to life lessons,
Our podcast is dedicated to supporting you as you navigate both the personal and professional growth journey.
ultimately giving you the confidence to always stand in your truth.
Hey everyone, this is the Standing on Business podcast with your co host, Bianca.
And Amari.
And today we're going to talk about let's stay connected, the art of relationship building in the workplace. So, we really want to get into what makes it, why is it important to really hold on to relationships or build relationships when you're talking about a corporate setting, even in your personal life. And we're going to really delve into our personal experiences, talk about some do's and don'ts, and then also how to navigate those difficult relationships. Because sometimes that's where the rubber meets the road, and we really want to get into advice on how to navigate those things. So first, we're going to kind of go into, what is the value of relationship building and networking? And Amari, I want to ask you, what do you think? Like, how do you feel about relationships in the workplace? And then how has that helped you in your career?
So, for me, I think one of the core principles about relationship building and the value of it is like based in authenticity. I think essentially when you connect with people in authentic ways, you build the blocks of being able to connect to whatever your purpose is. And so I think for me, it's kind of like relationship building is important because you don't know what that next thing is going to be behind that. And you never want to have like a door where you're like, I wonder what would have happened if I would have,
Yeah,
stayed in contact with this person or
right.
like went for that opportunity. And so I don't know. I think like that's probably where I place value in it is like it's in the unknown of like you don't know what's gonna come after that. And so I don't know. I think too it's a piece of I value community a lot. And so it's
Yeah,
like I'm big on lifting as you climb. So it's like we may not be CEOs or millionaire, billionaire people
right.
today, but it's like you
Yeah,
never know where your paths will intertwine later on in life and like where someone could be a valuable connection for you when you're, 20 years down the line. So,
yeah. And I feel like we learned that, we met through work, through our through workplace setting. So we definitely learned each other's, I feel like, workplace style first, and then we grew into friends. So it was just like,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah. And I think too, like that is what helps to keep it sustained. Like when we talk
yeah,
about sustainability and like long term connection, I think that authentic element is what like when we talk about like I guess like formulaic success and like, what's the science
right.
behind like breaking down, keeping this connection or um like staying in contact with someone. Cause I think too, like in the day and age that we're in now, it's like there's this false sense of connection with like social media of like, oh, I saw you post this, or like,
Okay,
oh,
yeah,
I saw, this update. So I feel like I'm staying connected to you. But when you genuinely connect with someone and you're genuinely like, hey, like we bring out the best in each other, or
right,
you have this skill set and I have this, it's kind of like a yin yang dynamic. I think it forces you to grow into like the better version of yourself because you're learning from different perspectives. Um, and you want to do that in a way that is real, right? Like you
right,
don't want to like be getting all these sources of information and advice from people and it's turning you into someone that you don't even want to be or taking you down a path that you don't even want to follow. And so I think that's the piece where authenticity plays because it's true to you. Like it's like for instance, if I am interested in art
mhm,
and like being an art buyer, and it's like,
right.
okay, like I want to get into this one day. I should probably be connecting with people who have similar interests or expertise
Yeah,
in that area because eventually like maybe that person knows somebody that could put me on to like a project or invite me to an event and who knows what that could kind of snowball into from there and what that could lead to. But if I know that I can't swim, I don't like swimming, I don't want to get my hair wet, I don't like anything like that, I probably shouldn't be like at the pool looking for my next big thing, like my next big
yeah,
idea or whatever. So I don't know, and I think in the ways that it's helped me, I think going back to like the connection of like, you want to stay connected to people who you have some type of like commonality or tie with. It's like when you connect with people for an authentic purpose, whatever that pillar in your life may be, I think it helps you remain true to who you are.
Yeah, of
Like, it's
course.
kind of like those reminders of, like, I know with our relationship, like, you'll let me know if I'm getting too far ahead of myself or if I'm being too anxious. Like, you're gonna be that
Right.
good person there to, like, check me. Even though we met, like, professionally, it's like, okay, you've seen how my work styles are or, like, my skill set is and, like, different nuances with me of, like, "Oh, you're really meticulous," or, like, "You may not be this, like, detail oriented." Whatever the case may be, you're able to pull me back to that central theme that we met with, and for us, it's like, professionalism,
Yeah.
but also, like, community work,
Yeah.
like, it's different things that root us, but yeah, I
I
don't
know.
know.
We're here now, girl. We're
I
doing a
know,
podcast. And so as you had talked about like authenticity, I think we saw like you mentioned about like social media and then kind of just how sometimes that could be fake. But with
mm,
the workplace, you can't be, I feel like fake because you're really in front of people most of the time. Most people, unless you're working remote work.
mhm,
But like sometimes I feel like people have a hard time when it comes to the different I guess levels in relationships. So versus peer relationships versus like more maybe somebody is a higher title than you. So I think just as we talk about like go through, some of our topics, people will definitely learn how to navigate both because we were coming in, in a similar level and stuff. So it was like more peer, but we also at the same time had to, deal with, directors, VPs,
yeah,
CEOs.
yeah,
So we're going to get into just how we, what are some of the different things that, we'll do a little game of this or that and show like what are the different ways, you could develop with relationships or networking and then see what each other really preference. So I'll do the first one. I'll let you do the
I
second
like
one.
it. I will say before we jump into the game, I wanna
Yeah.
make one point that I think in maturing and growing
Mhm.
both personally, like, through age and, like, life experience, but also through professional, like, settings and environments and just different things, like, we coin authentic to mean like real or like you know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's a certain connotation behind the word authentic. I think you made a great point in saying like you need to know your audience to show up authentically. That does not mean that you're a sellout or like, oh,
Mhm.
you're not really like that or like you're putting on airs in certain rooms. I think it's really important to kind of change your positioning in your mind of like I'm showing up most authentically with this setting of like
Mhm.
knowing that I'm speaking to a director. The way that I'm talking to a director or a senior leader does not need to be the way that I'm gonna kiki at happy hour and be
Yes.
like, girl, so I think there's just different times to flex different versions of what your authenticity looks like while still remaining true to you.
Right.
So
And that's an important piece.
yes, and Lord knows that on several occasions, like, I did not get that right, so we'll see, but I do wanna jump into the game. I'm sorry for
Yes.
the sidebar,
No, it's
but
good.
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna play a game of this is that. We're just gonna go back and forth. So, do you like face-to-face networking or virtual networking?
Okay, if our theme of discussion is authenticity, I prefer face to face because I feel like I need to catch your vibe because I think in any, like, corporate setting, like, you do have people who don't have that balance of alchemizing their authenticity to say, like, "Okay, I can still be me and not code switch in this meeting and still care about diversity and inclusion and equity or care about certain, like, demographics of who like for us, we're in healthcare, so like I can care about a certain patient demographic. For someone who might be in more standard business, it's like okay, I care more about like marginalized groups. But I think when you meet people in person, because you can only wear a mask for so long. I feel like when
Yeah.
you meet people in person, you can kind of tell who you're getting to some degree. Not all the time, but I think for me, I value being able to meet someone and say like, "Oh, this is someone that I know is on their stuff." Because I think that's the thing too, like, the longer you're in just life, you learn and mature, but when you're in your career, you can kinda tell like, "Oh, this person is
Mhm.
a brown nose," or like, "This person is a"
Yes.
"This person is the willing to die and give a sacrificial lamb for a cause." So, yeah, I think for me,
Face to
face
face.
to face
Yeah.
helps me to gauge where I'm going to place how I need to foster that connection.
I agree because I think like face to face, I love a good event. So I love a good networking event.
Mhm.
So that and but there's other ways that you have one-on-ones. We've done a lot of those throughout our careers
Oh, yeah.
of setting those up. And then before COVID, obviously majority of them were in person. And yes,
Yes,
so
I
we're
was
gonna talk
gonna
about
say
that a
we can
little
talk about that
bit.
because I think that's another thing too. Like maybe I have like partial view because I came into my career during
During
remote
COVID,
work. Yeah,
yeah.
and I saw a lot of like the pitfalls of that of like I don't know, but we'll get into it. Keep
Yes.
going.
Yes. So yeah, so I was just about to say, I feel like a more personal connection to people when it's face to face. But I'll let you do the next one.
Okay, no, okay. So we'll definitely check the box. So in person for sure. So as far as networking in general, do you prefer networking in small, like intimate environments and gatherings, like curated things, or larger events? So like a conference or I don't know, like a
Yeah, I think
panel or something.
I would say for me personally, I would say smaller, intimate gatherings. So yesterday, did a dinner,
Yeah.
which was good. We'll talk about more. So like some of the different ways you can get in front of people, but I would say the smaller, more intimate gatherings because you're able to really one get to know the people in the room, and then if it's like a featured speaker or some, maybe a CEO or somebody else talking, you're able to like really go and connect with them on, maybe it's only 15 people in the room. So I would say for just personal connection, you're able to I feel like for me, I like smaller gatherings better.
Mm, I think so for me, I will start by saying I like large events, which I feel like for my personality is so like different than what I would have thought I would have picked. But I also think it's a matter of like, what are we meeting about? Like, what is the connect? Like, what is the thing? I feel like that helps me better to determine. But I feel like because I am someone that I think like is ambiverted, I prefer to be more like to
In the
myself and
crowd.
recluse. No, like
Oh,
I
okay.
prefer to be like more to myself. And I think networking in intimate settings forces you to do more work.
Of course, yeah.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like for me, it's kind of like you can kind of get away with being in a crowd of people.
Yes, that's what I was about to
Yes.
that's
I was
why
going
I
to
asked, like,
say,
in the crowd, if you like
yes.
that better.
Because I think for me, like, I am very thoughtful with like social alignment in a professional setting. And so I don't know. I think for me it's like, okay, like I want to be able to like have some type of interaction with this person or this, booth or whatever the product is, whatever it is, like I want to be able to kind of like a Costco like sample. Like I want to be able to
Mhm.
sample this a little bit before I fully invest in it. And I think when you are put in more intimate settings, like it kind of forces you to make connections. And I guess the crux of this really is I do not like being uncomfortable in professional settings. And I think that intimate environments promote that. But I also think that being uncomfortable is what ultimately yields growth.
Right.
And that's something that I am working on. So I promote,
The
and
smaller intimate
yeah,
ones, but
I endorse
yes, I love it. I
small
love a
events.
good, like, let me ask a question.
Yeah.
Let me my face. Like,
Yes,
that's what I
yes.
like about intimate settings.
Me, I'm gonna get my voice shaking. I'm like, I think never mind. I should go home.
No, remember the event we went to? You did really good.
We're growing.
Do you wanna tell them about that? I know we wanna save that for a
We can
different
save that
story.
for another time.
Okay. Okay, we'll get back to
We
that.
can table it.
So, we're gonna do 2 more.
Okay.
Do you like follow-up emails? Do you like to do follow-up emails or handwritten thank you notes? I feel like this is a good one for you because 'cause you're very sentimental,
I
like
am. I'm such a feeler.
yeah.
If we were to talk about like types, so it's funny because I'm the opposite. I think once I have made the connection and I know that I want to be intentional with it and I know where I'm placing it in my life of like, okay, is this like a like if you're thinking in like ripples of wave of like, okay, in that first layer of,
Mhm.
what's closest to me versus like, a little bit more expanded, a little bit more casual. I prefer to do things that kind of set you apart. And I think that's important. Like I think just given my experiences, I've noted that it's always been those small personal touches that I think have pushed me to the next round or the
Right.
next like
Yeah.
phase or level that's like, okay, like this girl really genuinely cherished the conversation because that's something that I'll do. So like if I'm on an interview or if I met with someone at a conference or like it could be, we met at a coffee shop and got a bagel, like whatever that is, I'm gonna tie that into my messaging, which I support for either format, whether you're, sending something electronically or doing handwritten. But it's just something different that just hits different when you are willing to pull in a connected conversation piece or something that connected to you that you will carry with you from that interaction with that person in a way that is tangible and they can feel not only through your words, but like can hold in their hands and be like,
Right.
wow, this person really took out the time to dedicate a piece of their time to me. So,
And I've kept all mine. All the thank you notes,
yeah.
like any cards, I'm very much like I have a little box of all of them.
Mhm.
And like with pictures and it's good to look back on. So if you're ever thinking about, you have a job interview, you have, your boss, want to get some kudos,
A good
do a
brag.
handwritten note because they will keep it. They're most likely will put it on like a board or something. So
And I think that that kind of goes into a segment that we'll do a little later as far
yeah.
as like, tips and tricks of, advancement.
Yeah.
But to your point, like that is something that a lot of people don't even know. Like you don't know what this person will do with that or how they'll remember you or what that impression is. And it's like you only get a chance to do a first impression one time. So whatever
That's
point of the
important.
process,
Yes.
yeah, like whatever point of the process that you're in, you want to make sure that you're always, and I think this is a philosophy of my own. So I don't want to speak for the masses and say this is what you always want to do, but I think that it is important to make sure that for each level of any process that you're in, that you're always showing up and doing your best, which is going to look different from like level to level or process to process or circumstance to circumstance. But it's important because at least at that point, you're not looking back with regret on something, and you know that when you do receive things, it's because you were meant to, because you did your best.
Yes.
You know?
Okay. I would say, I hear you, girl. You got
I am preaching a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so
no, you
in that, we'll
we're
segue to
doing
our
good.
last little question.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think this is a good one to end with you because
Okay.
you're in a space now where you're starting to pivot from, you were clinical and then,
We went to
went
business.
into
So
yes,
yeah, went to corporate.
yes, had to get out the briefcase, babes. But now you're in a space where you're even taking that funds of knowledge and transitioning it into entrepreneurship. And so in that, you've had a lot of experiences with like one foot in the business realm and like the corporate formal realm, but also in like the creative and entrepreneurial space. So I would like to know, Bianca, um, as far as your this or that, do you prefer networking with people in your field or meeting people from other industries? And what have your experiences been like in whatever option you're gonna choose?
That's a tough one because I feel like you said, I'm kind of in like dual spaces. So very corporate and then very creative entrepreneur, working with influencers, that type of thing. I would say currently I like networking with people outside of my industry per se. So I'm considering myself as media. So I have my own media brand, but I need to network with a bunch of people. Maybe they're in tech, they are maybe in fashion, they may be in food influencing. So I think for me right now, it's networking outside of my industry,
Mhm.
and especially specifically that's not healthcare.
Mhm.
But I would say when I was like heavy and moving up in my healthcare career, I would say networking within, the healthcare industry was important. We went to, we have our healthcare conference that we usually go to, like the fun in that, like, it's
Yeah.
always fun. Healthcare is such like it's big, but it's still niched down enough to where it's like, when you talk about administration, we know a lot of us know each other.
Yeah.
So when I was like moving up in career, I'll say within the industry, but now it's definitely with like outside the industry because it's like so many different I don't want to say specialties like it's healthcare, but so many different so many different types of people I get to talk to now. And it's interesting. It's cool. I love it. And I'm taking my healthcare background and everything I learned in corporate and applying it now in like the creative and like entrepreneur space. So it's very cool. I'm enjoying it.
Yes, I feel like it's very fitting and it looks amazing on you for you to be kind of diversifying your professional portfolio in that way. And I think like to your point, I like that you added the value to both because I think it really determines or it depends on the phase of life or career status that you're at. Like when you're more junior,
Yeah.
it's not even what you want to do. I think it's
It's
more
what you have to
it's what
do.
you need
Yes.
to do. It's
Yeah.
about like, if you're trying to like make a name for yourself in any game or any industry, I think it's important for you to put the work in and it's important for you to do your due diligence and to like know your business and know like what's new, what's current, what was historical because you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And so I think it's important to network with people in your field. Not even it's important. I think it's a necessity. Like,
Yeah, I agree, especially with whatever level you really have to assess your level.
yeah.
Like, because with me, like creating a business and especially just evolving it and seeing,
Mhm.
I don't even know it all the way what it is yet. So I am, really trying to see, okay, I'm just putting all my feelers out there.
Yeah.
But in healthcare, and especially if you're more junior position, it's like you have to, there are certain people you have to talk to. So
And I think to that point, like when you're junior, like when you're like in college or like when you're first coming out of school, you got your degree and you're like, I'm grown. Like, baby, listen, you do not know what you don't know until you start talking to people who do know and have expertise or have the years of experience in whatever dedicated field and can give you give you tips and tricks and to say, like, okay, don't do that, baby, like, or have you thought about this? Because I think a lot of times, like, we feel like we need to do all the work ourselves. Like, it's like, okay, like, I got this. I need to research this. Me. It's all on me. And it's like, no, everything isn't on you. It's about like connecting with people who can be that resource to help you run whatever your thing is efficiently.
right, and
Um,
collaborating, like especially, we talk about horizontal versus vertical, like networking,
mhm.
like definitely, you know, the people in my cohort, we were each other's lifelines.
Yeah.
I feel like and so important and integral to like us. I feel like me moving in like up in my healthcare career. So
Yeah.
people shouldn't like, there's always the VP or CEO, whatever to network with, but networking within your peer group is also important.
Yeah. I think too, like, oh dang, what was I gonna say? I feel like another piece of that is dang, I completely just blanked out on what I was gonna say. Well, my preference is
No,
oh,
good.
it's my thing about credentials. So, I think another thing about that is, my stance is you need to be credentialed AF.
Yes.
Like, you need to be
We
undeniable. And I know that that is a very harsh, like, expectation to set for yourself. And I think that there's a way that you find balance in that. But I think, again, going back to what I said earlier about always trying to be your best, you can't be your best simply from your perspective. You can't be your best simply from what you
say it
know. Like,
again. Say no, seriously,
you
say it
can't. You
again.
just can't. And like, I just don't think that we were all created with all of our different experiences to be in this world and act alone. Like, we need each other, whether that's within your industry, whether that's personally within life. And I think, I don't know, I just think when you're trying to build up who you are and building up your credentials, like it's important to connect with people who already have them. Not also just to like receive what they have to give, but also to get insight on what you don't want to do or a path that you don't want to go down of like, okay, like I connected with this person. I thought I wanted to do this and, spent some more intimate time with them and not even them as a person, but like got to see their feel. Like I got to shadow them or I got to, do a day in the life. And it's like, actually, I don't want to do this. Like, for instance, I think right now with pop culture, what's really big is like being an influencer. And
Right.
people think that that's what they want to do and they see the outcome of it, but it's like, that's
That's a
actually
whole episode by itself.
it is, but it's like it's a job, it's another responsibility, and then it's like it comes with its own set of issues and
Yeah.
cons that you don't necessarily think about until maybe you meet with someone of like, what's my boundary of how much I'm gonna share with the world versus what I'm gonna keep private for me or, you
And how
know
much energy does it take from you? Because I'm navigating just
Mhm.
doing a media brand and kind of not trying to put myself as we do this podcast, trying not to put
As
myself
you add another
too
ball to
much
juggle.
in the forefront, but because I wanted it to be seen as a company, not just, oh, I'm a influencer telling people about events and experiences. So I'm having to navigate that myself, and I'll definitely see you know, this year in 2025 how that goes and would I share, how much more do I share, especially as
Yeah.
we share about all of our experiences and success stories through staying on business. So
Yeah, no, I think that one, I'm even more junior in this space than you are, and it's been very nice to have you as someone to like
oh
look to of
yeah,
like, okay, she's doing this, I can do this. And I think that's again the power of
yeah,
relationship building and building connections because I don't think prior to us being friends that I had a friend that I was like, oh, I like, and I don't want to say, let me not do that because I don't want anyone to feel
don't throw
away.
everybody under the bus, girl.
I'm crying. That's not what I'm trying to say. But essentially what I'm saying is like I've had friends where I feel like we've both been on our P's and Q's at the same time. And it's like, I'm proud of you for going down your lane and I'm going through mine and like bouncing off that energy. But I don't think that I've ever really had a friend that I've looked to and admired of like, oh my gosh, like, like how you kind of fan or stand somebody or
Oh
like,
my
a
gosh.
Beyonce.
I just be doing me.
Yes,
Literally.
but doing you, it's like it's so infectious and like it spreads and it is definitely encouraged me to like step out on my own faith and step into my own purpose. And I think that's the thing that we talk about of like we both are big on operating in purpose. And
Yes.
I think like a mantra that we both have is impact over influence. Like we want to be impactful and not just in the sense of like, general masses and like to an audience, but
Right.
like in life, like when it comes to like philanthropic efforts or whether it's
Community engagement, community service.
yeah,
Yeah.
like because we both have backgrounds in that professionally with our own, experiences in the workforce. So it's like that stuff is tied in so many different ways. But yeah, I just feel like I don't know.
I would say as we wrap up, I know we're about to be at time, but I always say for you, like, as soon as we saw each other, we were connected.
Yeah.
So, you were forever my friend after that, even though I feel like you were just like, who is this girl that's coming up to me and like wanting to like
Not
hang
me
out with
betting
me?
you.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything I said in the interview and it applied.
And I'm like, oh yeah, come hang out with us. But I always tell you, like, you are truly your superpower is wisdom. And I always tell you, you're very wise beyond your years. You're like a little old lady inside you.
I really am. A little
So
grandma.
I know. So as we go through and like we've been through just different phases in our, careers and as we are growing to, our own ventures,
Yeah.
like
Who
we
would
have
have thought?
definitely seen the impacts of relationships just with
Yeah.
with us, with our peer group, with friends, everyone. So I'm happy that we were able to share just a lot of just a lot of things that we like are tips that we would give other people. And also sometimes like we didn't get too much into the don'ts just yet, but I think that we could probably end with like what are some of our do's and don'ts that we would probably share or give maybe to a friend, a sister, to a mentee as they're coming up in their career.
Yeah, I think do's and don'ts are important because a lot of times too, like when you're going forward in your career or just in life, like it's an uncharted path and like everybody that went before you doesn't have the answers if they didn't go that route.
Right.
Um, and so I think for me, the do's that I have like incorporated with relationship building is being consistent. And consistency does not always have to mean like um what is the word I'm looking for? Like I want to say or consistency doesn't have to mean like I'm talking to this person every single day or I'm talking to them every single week. Consistency could just mean that we meet quarterly and I show up on time every
Yes.
other like every,
You already are good.
one
You're good at
third.
your one-on-ones. Like you're like,
I
I meet with
am.
this person, I meet with this person.
Yes, because
You're very consistent. You practice what you preach.
I feel like your Rolodex as you get older is so vast and it's just like, okay, like it's almost impossible to keep, everybody in a very close knit like relationship to you. And so it's like, okay, again, like you have to place people of like, what is the value of this relationship? How does this help me? How do I help them? And if we're building true, genuine, authentic community,
Yes.
how do I lean into this to a way that's beneficial to you? And then how do I also get my cup filled? And so I think you find out what that dynamic looks like between you and whomever, and then you establish a consistent rapport with them. And even if it's just like, hey, I don't even have much to say right now. I just wanted to check in on you, make sure you were good. Do you need anything from me? Like, what's going on with this last thing that we talked about? And then, you keep going. But I definitely would say I think consistency in your connection is what is going to help you in the long run. Because if not, that fire just doles out. And it's just not the same when you try to go pick it up. Like, it can become
Especially if you need something.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
it can become transactional. And even though that is what all connection is, you don't want it to read that way. So I think that's
Right.
my biggest do is just like being consistent so that you can remain in your authentic energy. Um, and I think a don't is like, mm,
I would say a don't for me, which I try to impart, which you tip like you kind of like led to it. But I would don't in relationships, don't waste people's time. Especially
Ooh.
when you are asking for a meeting,
Yeah.
have your, some people have admins, some people, see how you could get on their schedule, what's the best way that works for them, and make the process as easy as possible. And when you are there, be prepared. And I feel like you like
Yeah.
definitely touched on that. So I say don't, even if it's like a peer to peer, even if it's like, more a senior that you're meeting with, like be prepared. Don't waste anyone's time. Know what you're meeting with them for. And then also like be able to offer them something.
Yeah.
Like even if you're younger, more junior, you're always like somebody always needs a volunteer. Somebody always needs something that you could, or just they might just want you to learn from them. And people that especially are more senior in their career love to teach. So be that person that's open-minded and then a good listener and a good learner, really. So
Yeah.
that's my parting advice.
Yeah, I think that that segues nicely into what I was gonna say, which is essentially like know your boundaries, like
Yeah.
know your boundaries and also be cognizant of the boundaries of others because you don't want to taint a good relationship by not being able to read the room. Like, like it's just you want to make sure that you're not being burnt out by whatever that interaction looks like and that person doesn't feel used or that they continue to feel stimulated and engaged by having you be around them as well. And so, yeah, I think like even if it is peer level, like, dang, I wish we had enough time for me to get into a story. But essentially, like, even if it's someone that you're like, hey, like we're in the same race class or minority class, whatever it is, like,
Mhm.
don't necessarily just assume that someone is comfortable with something just because it may be like a colloquial thing within the culture or you and people that you have more established bonds and rapport with. Just, know your lane, stick to it. Don't try to merge into anybody else's like thing. And just being respectful and just respecting yourself. So, yeah, that is my parting. And I think I would like to end with a do from you, Bianca, because we didn't hear your do.
I would say do. If for me personally, I think I've learned that the follow-up matters. So
Mm,
a do, as we talked about, like the handwritten or follow-up email, just do follow up is my parting advice because that is where, like what you said, the connection and being consistent. Like there's so many people that we meet, right? But there's no follow-up. And then it's like that connection kind of just
yeah, fizzles.
goes away. And like
Mhm.
there's so many people I don't ever think that a more senior person doesn't want to meet with you because you can, like I said, you could offer them something, they could offer obviously you something. So it's just like do follow up, do like you said, do be consistent and do be prepared.
Yeah.
So
Because you never know, like, who was once you and who wants
yeah,
to help see you grow
of
as other
course.
people have done for them. And so I think that's actually a really nice note to end on.
It is.
We talk about not closing doors, but we are definitely closing the door at the end of
Yes.
this podcast. But we appreciate you guys for listening in. And Bianca, I appreciate you as my co-host as always.
Of course, girl.
Um, yeah, I guess continue to listen to us for future episodes, like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll be back soon.
We'll be back. Bye guys.